Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer and Wellness with Jer. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel today. We are back today, a week late, because I saved a praying mantis and it has really overtaken my life. Bugs are cool. Um, but we are back to talk about Peacemaker. I should have recorded it before I saved the praying mantis because honestly, the season 2 season finale was such a letdown. I could have recorded it after 7 episodes and had a much higher opinion of it. That's probably it for the spoiler-free version. Um, so we can talk about some of the mental health concepts. No, I felt season 2 was not as good as season 1. I think a lot of the charm of season 1 was absent in season 2. And yeah, I mean, soured by the finale. I will say season 2, like episodes 2 through 7 are good. And like, you know, the cast of characters are enjoyable enough and the story I think is worth keeping track of. Um I like Vigilante and Eagly, so watch it. Yeah, but spoilers ahead. The the season 2 jumps into the multiverse, which is fine. Um There's nothing in this that I think works better than I think it works better than what Marvel has done with the multiverse, but I think it's like worse than Rick and Morty. Obviously, Rick and Morty is a very self-contained entity, so it's easier to balance the multiverse. And as a comic book lover, I understand why James Gunn is doing this because he wants to tell the stories he wants to tell. And some of the best things the DC's ever done are like DC Black Label. So to be able to do some of the things that he probably wants to do, you sort of do need some of the multiverse stuff. I mean, if we're doing Superwoman, if we're doing Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, like that's not canon, right? And if that's going to be part of the canon of the movies, fine. The tie-ins to the larger universe were weird and felt forced. Having Guy Gardner for a tiny bit of an episode feels like a waste. Um, yeah. So like story-wise, fine. The big reveal was not for me. And I'm just gonna say I get it. And also, um, I'm from Milwaukee. Some people already know where I'm going with this. I'm from Milwaukee, and Wisconsin's like a purple state, right? Whatever. So Milwaukee and Madison are very blue and diverse. Blue meaning like vote Democrat. Um, we used to be socialist here in Milwaukee. A long history of socialism movement. Um, but the suburbs aren't, and it doesn't take real long. Milwaukee's not that big of a city to get out in the suburbs, and so it's weird. You'll experience this sometimes where you'll go someplace and there's no black people, and it's odd, right? Like it's odd for somebody like me who grew up on the north side of Milwaukee, where I was as a white kid like the minority in my neighborhood. And so this is a thing I like. It was apparent to me right away, and I thought it was pretty funny early on in the episode. I didn't understand it was a reveal. I thought it was sort of understood as we're watching it that like he doesn't realize, Peacemaker doesn't realize in this alternate universe that he's in that there's no black people. And Harcourt notices it right away when she goes to that world with him. So I guess I thought it was like sort of an in joke and not so much of the reveal. Um, Unfortunately, a little on the nose. I think it's hard to do satire anymore. I mean, we have a U.S. senator who had a swastika flag in his office. So, like, the young Republicans who are not themselves young, they are full grown adults in their late 20s and into their 30s, working full time for the Republican Party, who are praising Hitler and saying they want to bring back concentration camps. I mean, we already have concentration camps. That's what Alligator Alcatraz was. So, whatever, like the Nazi stuff is tiresome in the sense that, not in a storytelling sense, but in a sense that like there is no satire or skewer you can do anymore because reality has become so vapid. I guess is what I'll say. And so it's fine. Like I think it's good social commentary. Again, I think things like The Boys are needed to be like Homelander's the bad guy. If you're a fan, you're wrong. Uh, Peacemaker is not a good character in the wider comic book universe. He's authoritarianism personified, right? Peace at any cost is authoritarianism. Um, and so, season two, we sort of have this redemption arc. Peacemaker, Chris Smith, as played by John Cena. Cena does really well. Again, I mean, this character seems to fit his acting abilities quite well. There's one episode where he's like sad and supposed to be crying, and I just couldn't like not see like 2011 John Cena trying to be sad about, I don't know, calling female wrestler hoes or something like that. Like, I don't know. He lacks some emotional depth, and I say that as a longtime wrestling fan who grew very tired of his lack of acting skills. Like, he's a better actor than I thought he would have been based on his WWE time. And for the most part, this character works really well for him. But like, it works well as a like dumb idiot meathead. And that's probably Cena to some degree, right? Like from Boston, got into like powerlifting before he was ever in WWE. Like he's not dumb. He's an intelligent dude. He's well read, speaks a couple languages. Like I'm not throwing shade here, but like, yeah, he's not a trained actor. He's a trained pro wrestler, former bodybuilder. So some of the like more nuanced stuff didn't go great, but like angsty, confused, not sure where to go next. All pretty good. Vigilante, I think, continues to steal the show, and I think he played a lesser role in season two, which is a bit unfortunate. And again, see, like Vigilante's not a good guy either. Like Vigilante's written to be sort of a sociopath, but he's incredibly charming and very likable. Economos. None of the characters are good, right? Like that's the thing with the show, and I think being a little bit of a flagship for DC in between their bigger movie releases is Economos is a coward. Harcourt has toxic masculinity issues. So does Peacemaker. So does Vigilante. My season one review is pretty much about like, geez, James Gunn writes autism characters really well, but then he talks in the press about how they're not autistic and they're actually monsters, which sort of makes me feel bad for his kid who's autistic. Because he gets it and also doesn't. It's a big swing and a miss sometimes, but he can portray it really well on screen, and then he talks very poorly of what he thinks of it. But yeah, I mean, this season is from a mental health perspective. Harcourt is dealing with some pretty severe trauma and loss, and she is just headlong into overt self-harm. I mean, she's going to bars and picking fights so she can get beat up and thrown out, and that's her penance. I was raised Lutheran, so Martin Luther supposedly, this is probably mythology, but supposedly, quite fond as a monk of whipping himself until he, would pass out or have some sort of spiritual awakening from all the endorphins being released and the euphoria of it. But like, yeah, he grew up sort of as this monastic figure who punished himself. So, whether that's Catholicism or Lutheranism, like lots of guilt and shame inherent in those. As far as I know, Harcourt is not written at all to be a religious character, but familiar with those sort of concepts and those like that shame. It's also, I would say, from a trauma perspective, like she's let go from Argus, and so she's not working. And so that also, like that lack of structure can be really harmful sometimes for undermanaged mental health issues. A lack of structure can be really detrimental. And so I think not being able to work, she's seen in therapy very briefly in the show where she's diagnosed with toxic masculinity. Not a real diagnosis, right? But for very humorous effect, she's deeply offended by that feedback, and it plays well. It's a funny scene, and she is. I mean, she's a female character, but she has sort of that like toxic masculinity coding, and so to see, young Batman or to see an up and coming superhero do what she's doing in the show would not be like a surprise. It's been done before. So I think that works pretty well. And sort of she's grappling with um, really sort of closing the book on whatever sort of hookup friends with benefits thing she had with Rick Flag Jr., souring on Rick Flag Sr.'s running of Argus. She doesn't feel that revenge that he does towards Peacemaker, even though she knows Peacemaker killed Rick Flag Jr. Um, but like she's grappling with the chosen family concept. This is not, she's resistant to, the 11th Street kids being her chosen family, but she really doesn't have anyone else, especially when Argus kicks her out. And so that's sort of a there's that sort of redemption arc, which she comes around. I would say that arc's sort of completed. And then Peacemaker's redemption, which like again, it seemed like a big missed opportunity. And that's just sort of my sense of season two is like I think because they had bigger things planned, they lost sort of the heart of this story, which is like again, Peacemaker is not a good guy, but he deeply wants to be. And he kills his dad at the end of season one, right? And his dad's the Nazi, right? Like points for killing Nazis. That's a good thing. And so wait, it's still his dad. And so he's grappling with like how his dad was abusive to him and the trauma from being made to fight his brother for a gambling ring his dad was running and killing his brother. So like all that heavy stuff is in season one. And then season two, we sort of like sidestep a lot of it and we know why he's drawn to this alternate universe where his dad and brother are still alive. Keith is, I thought, probably the more interesting character in season two. I'll get into that a little bit more. Um, but so rather than like dealing with his grief, rather than processing anything, he, gets stoned, he gets drunk, throws an orgy that he doesn't participate in, and he also doesn't invite Vigilante to because he's not a very good friend. Vigilante might be ace, though, we learned, so probably sensory processing stuff related. But anyways, self-sabotaging differently than Harcourt is, but similar. But like also they introduced that Peacemaker sort of took his shot with Harcourt and she rejected him. And so he's more bothered by that throughout this season than he is from like killing his dad. So again, I think they introduced a lot of emotional depth in season one, and then they didn't go there in season two. If they had told the complete story, which they didn't, I think it could have been interesting, or at least more interesting, maybe depending on how they landed it. Of he keeps going into this alternate universe as a way to avoid his grief, and then but then you got to close that loop at some point, and they don't. They didn't. Season two is unfinished. I mean, season two is finished. The finale has happened, but the story will be completed either in a future Superman movie or season three potentially. I don't know. I don't think that's been announced. But it's not even a cliffhanger. They just left everything sort of open ended. And honestly, like I was on my phone during this season two finale because it got a little long. I don't know. Somebody needs to reel James Gunn in on like, bro, you don't get two live musical performances in an hour-long show. That's ridiculous. Um, and do I appreciate James Gunn's soundtracks generally? Yeah, like Creature Commandos was my jam. Like Gogol Bordello and Korpiklani is awesome. Good for him for using bands like that and getting more people introduced to them. And at some point, like you gotta be like, nah, bro, like this isn't, him making his own band for Superman, the Superman movie. It's like somebody's gotta be able to be like, hey, you're really good at this and this goes really well, but like too far. We lost the plot here a little bit. But like season two finale again is like two musical numbers. It's unnecessary. Um and they didn't wrap up any of the storylines. I think like having this like again, I was on my phone because it was like boring that there was a second musical interlude. I was just sort of like waiting for it to like wrap up so we could finish the story. And then this episode season just ended. And so like building this checkmate facility to counter Argus. And, like, I know where they're going with it from the comic books, and I know what they're introducing. It seems odd. It seems knowing what Woman of Tomorrow storyline is, that like there's a planet that she gets put on that was designed specifically to kill Superman. Spoilers. And if they put that in the movie, which maybe they won't, but that's in that story too. So it seems like odd to be like, oh, we're gonna do another Survivor planet. I don't know. Whatever. It can pay off. I know how it goes in the comic books, so like that could be a much better than the Zack Snyder way to sort of introduce Dark Side and get us there. I'm not opposed to that. It just we didn't wrap up anything with the alternate universe. We didn't really wrap is Harcourt healthy? Peacemaker's not. What happens with that alien who kept coming through the door and incinerating things? Like we didn't we didn't get any of that stuff. Some of the other worlds were slightly introduced to could be interesting. And I think the parallel sort of pocket universe thing that Peacemaker had in his closet was like 99 doors. And so I think there's a lot of potential storytelling off of that. The planet that's just the giant screaming heads is pretty funny. Um, so like some of that stuff, I think there it was I wasn't like mad or angry while I was watching it. I didn't hate it. The opener was slow, I thought, and then the finale really, 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 really fell flat. Like there's no resolution to the storylines from season two. And like if building a counter agency to Argus was supposed to be that, like it felt very cheap of all of Vigilante's money from all the drug busts he did because he refused to use any of it because it's blood money. Like again, and that this makes Vigilante likable. I don't know. It just didn't finish. And so when I said like Keith was an interesting character, like again, Peacemaker is in this alternate universe, and they find out that like in this universe the Nazis won and Hitler is revered, and of course that's why Peacemaker and his dad and his brother Keith are the top trio. They're the superheroes of choice for this world because, like, Peacemaker's dad's a Nazi, but in this world, maybe he's not a Nazi, and that seems very important to Peacemaker. Um, but Keith definitely is, and like is on a revenge tour, right? Like he's mad that Peacemaker came into their world and ruined things. He's mad that he killed his brother, his version of his brother, and I get that like the door supposedly only opens and closes from one direction, but I don't know. Peacemaker's dad seems to be like a bit of a technological wizard and also a grand wizard in the racist community. Get it? Nazi puns. And yeah, the other thing that happened, DC did this weird. I thought that they posted some stuff from Creature Commandos, which like if you want to watch a trauma heavy show that James Gunn put a really good soundtrack on, go watch Creature Commandos. It's pretty good. I think it veers a little bit into like trauma porn, but that's just my opinion. Um Overall it was good. And um where was I going with that? Oh, so one of the characters in Creature Commandos is GI Robot. GI Robot's a robot from World War II. His main prime directive is to kill Nazis. He's a lovable character who kills Nazis, which again is a good thing, right? 2025, apparently, we have to remind people that, like, hey, Nazis are bad. If you're an anti-fascist, you're a fascist, which makes you a bad guy. So DC like started releasing all these clips of GI Robot. So everybody was assuming before the season finale came out that GI Robot would make his live action appearance in the Nazi world in Peacemaker, and that would be like delightful. And then like it didn't. They just did it for clicks and engagement. I don't know who's doing like the social media and marketing stuff, but like, aha, what a red herring this was. Isn't like a great thing to do to your fan base, especially when like your fan base has dealt with a reboot not that long ago. And I think Superman was good and pretty well received. I liked Superman. It did well. And Woman of Tomorrow should be good to great, depending on how close they stick to the comic storyline. And so I don't know. I don't know why you would like squander your goodwill. I don't have an issue with fan service in this instance. And even if it had been, I think, an Easter egg or GI Robot up on a wall somewhere, or his robot head or helmet or something they could have given us would have been good, and they didn't. That's a bummer. Um, and like the bride is a good character, I think that would work well. Frankenstein's monster is a good to great character that will work well. Like I think there's a lot with Creature Commandos that could overlap and be good and worthwhile. And James Gunn went out of his way multiple times to say in his DC canon, Creature Commandos like is there. So is Superman, so is Peacemaker season 1. So like those tie-ins are there. Supposedly the ending of season 1 isn't where like Aquaman and the Flash all show up. But again, in the Superman movie, Peacemaker shows up to be on like the late night talk show circuit and be like, see, I knew these goody two shoes, they're all freaks. So I don't know, the tie-ins are there. So it was just weird. I think like again, the end of season 2 felt like a trailer for something else that you don't get to watch yet, like almost an advertisement for like tune in for the next Superman movie. And it just didn't wrap up. Like that could have worked if they wrapped the storyline from season 2. And if the wrap was like, oh, they're just trapped in the Nazi world, like there's no, that's not catharsis. There's no comeuppance. We didn't close that loop. Just escaping the Nazi world with everybody alive. I don't know. Like, shouldn't the good guys go back and free all the people of color who are slaves in the Nazi world? I would think so. So, yeah, not as good as season 1. Season 1 was sort of these like likable, these deeply flawed characters who were still somehow charming and likable, telling a local story, which again, if you've watched any of my superhero stuff, you know this is the thing for me, but like tell the local story. What we care about is Batman's relationship to Alfred. What we care about is how Batman thinks about Gotham. What we care about are Batman catching the Riddler in this one story. Not everything needs to be a universe expanding, threatening thing, right? Like even the way that Peacemaker was like, we don't want another Metropolis with the universes colliding was like, right, that's true. I get that. If you've seen the Superman movie, that makes sense. And I don't know, what if we just like told a detective story? The Batman reboot in this DC universe is Batman is world's greatest detective, and like that works, right? That's a local story. Even like Jason Aaron's run on like Batman Off-World is like a local story. Yes, he goes in outer space, but like to do a thing and then to connect it back to like this thing that happened in Gotham. Local meaning not just like geography, but like small scale, a singular storyline loop. Yes, it can have offshoots and yes, character development for the minor characters and stuff like that. But like tell a complete story and don't make it universe expanding. Don't make it be the galaxy is at risk all the time, forever, every single time. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 versus Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3. Apologies to anybody who really liked 2, but it wasn't as good as 1. 1 was just local story. So I don't know. James Gunn hopefully has somebody at DC who can reel him in a little bit and be like, bruh, stop with the live musical performances. Good at soundtracks. You don't need to have full on concerts for yourself. And hopefully, like, to be like local story. The reason I'm excited for Woman of Tomorrow is because while it spans across the galaxy is not at risk, right? It is a local story. It's Supergirl and this one character, Ruthie. Uh, and what happens there. And like that's gonna be awesome, assuming they stick to the canon. Fingers crossed. I have high hopes for that. So yeah, I don't think it's like bad. And I guess if you're keeping up with DC, the other thing I hate is like the preposterousness of superhero stories that think that say you need to be overly invested. You need to stay up to date in this. It takes what is a recreational hobby and makes it work. I feel this way about comics sometimes too. Like um the absolute run of Superman, I didn't even finish. And like I'm a big Jason Aaron fan. He's been on my podcast. I've talked to him personally at length. He's a very cool individual. I like a lot of his work. Southern Bastards is the comic series that got me back into comics as an adult. And his stuff has been like really, really good. And I didn't even finish Absolute Superman. And like Absolute Batman looks incredible, mostly from like Daniel Warren Johnson's artwork. Um, if you know, you know. And yeah, I don't know. Like I crossover events are taxing, and yes, I'm like neurodivergent, probably have a touch of pervasive drive for autonomy, which used to be persistent demand avoidance, PDA. And so telling me I need to do all these things to be able to read it or enjoy it doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make my brain happy. But like again, if it's well done and it connects, that's fine. But like, there's things, there's other media. This happens with like um anime a lot too, where it's like, man, just like the entry point seems really high. You have to catch up on a lot of stuff to be able to enjoy it. And I don't know, the world's on fire and like shit's crumbling. Like maybe don't give us homework. Maybe don't make it feel like we have to like pay the expanding comic book universe tax to be able to enjoy this. Don't make our superhero movies feel like it's corporate synergy instead of a superhero story. Just would be a thought. Also, where's our Mr. Terrific show? Because that needs to happen. That needed to happen right after Superman came out so that we could be like, yes, here's a character we all love and give us Sherlock Holmesian style with crimes fighting with him or whatever. It doesn't even matter. He's got a great look. Give us that. Where's Mr. Terrific? Why can't Mr. Terrific solve some of Peacemaker's problems instead of us getting a cursory, uh, what's, you know, Nathan Fillion appearance as Guy Gardner? I will also be pretty ecstatic. So I'm a Jason Aaron fan, also a Tom King fan. Not everything, but a lot of his stuff's good. Human Target was good. So if we want like a shitty Guy Gardner story, also would be pretty good. Um, and what's his name? Holt. I want to say Nathan, but maybe that's just Nathan Fillion. Nathan Holt? That doesn't sound right. But the guy who played Lex Luthor in the Superman movie also is in Peacemaker. Still good. Like he's a good. He's got Lex, I think, better than a lot of other people who have portrayed Lex Luthor as. And so again, well, you have these anti-hero sort of good guy characters who are not good people themselves. Having an overtly evil bad guy is important. Um, and yeah, that's been Nicholas. I think it's Nicholas Holt. Um, he's been good. It was a little like God out of the machine, Deus ex machina, for you cultural nerds out there. Um, to be, oh, here's Lex Luthor. He understands the portal. Ta-da! But it's fine. Like it worked. I rolled my eyes slightly at it, but it was fine. But yeah, I don't know. I think a bit of a step down. Although if Peacemaker, I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say like Peacemaker gets his movie role, but like that was already in the Suicide Squad, the second Suicide Squad movie, in which he was really good, and that's why we got the Peacemaker show anyway. So I don't know. I don't know. It was a letdown. I enjoyed it while I was watching it. The season starts slow and then it builds up and then you're invested and then like the finale doesn't land and it's like, I don't know, insulting on some level to us as fans. It feels very like you're only as good as your next movie ticket purchase, as opposed to like, thanks for watching. We shall see, right? I guess that's sort of the James Gunn thing. I don't mind there being misses. right? I don't think everything needs to be like a smash success. I think consistently good would be good. Like we're just not quite there yet. Creature Commandos is good. Peacemaker season 1 is good. Superman movie is good, but like the Batman movie part 2 has been pretty delayed. Penguin was also good. I'll throw Penguin in there. I don't know if that's canon or not though. Um, but like I didn't dislike the Zack Snyder universe. I get that. I know why people didn't like it. I'm fine with that. Again, I view it more as missed opportunities than like it was bad. But yeah, DC like doesn't quite have that like fan base goodwill built up yet. We've been hurt before. And Marvel is like pretty exhausted. I don't know. I didn't see Thunderbolt. Supposedly it's really good and revitalizing, but again, like an offshoot cast of characters telling a local story is almost always going to work better than the universe expanding thing for the 34th MCU movie or whatever. So somebody figure it out. It's not going to be like the corporate overlords who do executive boardroom decisions, I guess. So that's the story you're telling. Those are bad guys. That's Lex Luthor. I don't know. Self awareness goes a long way. Anyway, I'm just rambling about capitalism ruining all our things, as I'm wont to do. So that's Peacemaker season 2. I watch it, I guess. If you watched Peacemaker season 1 and you liked the Superman movie, there'll be payoff hopefully somewhere. It's just not in this season, so it feels a little bit like a placeholder. Um, it's an episode 2 when there's a third, when it's a trilogy. That's not true because Two Towers is arguably the best Lord of the Rings. Hot takes if you stayed 31 minutes into the recording. Unless you're watching the extended versions, because Return of the King's extended version is really good. I can't pick a favorite Lord of the Rings. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got. We're wrapping up with the DC stuff. Drop down in the comments if there's other stuff you would like me to talk about, or if you're like, what's that comic book you're talking about? My comic book videos always do poorly, and I'm not super beholden to the algorithm. It's my channel. I'll do what I want on it, but um, those tend to be my least watched reviews when I talk about comic books. So unless there's really a clamoring for it, and a clamoring could just be one other individual, I'll happily go on a neurodivergent hyperfixation conversation for one person to watch. Um, but yeah, otherwise I do song reviews and just like talk about mental health and how it shows up in pop culture. So drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you want me to talk about. Like and subscribe so other people can find my work. I think that's all I got. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. Peace.